Okay folks, gather round, let's talk Syria. This land is a treasure trove of history, a place where the sands of time have preserved stories older than your grandma's secret cookie recipe. This place is old, like really old. We're talking about a region that has seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. We're talking civilizations popping up before civilization was even a thing. Imagine a time when the concept of a city was just being invented. Ancient cities like Ebla and Ugarit were the cool kids on the block. Way back in the day, these cities were bustling hubs of culture and commerce. Think Mesopotamia, the Fertile Crescent, all that jazz. This was the cradle of civilization where humanity took its first steps towards building societies. Syria was the heart of it. It was a melting pot of cultures, ideas, and innovations. Trade routes? They practically invented them. These routes connected the East and the West, making Syria a bustling marketplace of goods and ideas. Empires? Honey, they've seen them come and go like bad Tinder dates. From the Akkadians to the Romans, everyone wanted a piece of Syria. We're talking about a place where writing was invented. The earliest forms of writing, like cuneiform, were developed here. Yeah, you heard that right. No more drawing stick figures on cave walls to communicate. They developed complex scripts to record their history and transactions. They gave us the alphabet. The Phoenicians, who lived in what is now Syria, created one of the first alphabets. Thank you, Syria, for saving us from a world of interpretive dance communication. Their innovations in writing laid the foundation for modern alphabets. From the ancient city of Damascus, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities on Earth, to the bustling markets that have been active for millennia, to the mighty Euphrates River, which has nourished civilizations for thousands of years, Syria's history is a wild ride. It's a tapestry woven with the threads of countless stories, each more fascinating than the last. Buckle up, Buttercup, because we're going deep. We're about to uncover the layers of history that make Syria a true gem of the ancient world. So, we've established Syria is old. Really old. We're talking about a place that has seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations over thousands of years. But with age comes experience, right? And Syria has accumulated a wealth of it, becoming a living museum of human history. And boy does Syria have stories. Stories etched in stone, written on ancient scrolls and passed down through generations. We're talking about a greatest hits of ancient empires, all vying for a piece of that Syrian pie. First up, the Mesopotamians. They were among the first to harness the power of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. These guys were all about irrigation, agriculture, and conquering their neighbors. They laid the groundwork for future civilizations with their innovations. Then came the Romans with their togas, their roads, and their "let's conquer everything" attitude. They expanded their empire far and wide, leaving their mark on Syria. They even left behind some pretty sweet ruins, like the magnificent ruins of Palmyra. This ancient city was a bustling hub of trade and culture. But wait, there's more. The Byzantines, the Umayyad Caliphate, the Mongols, yikes. And finally, the Ottomans. Each of these empires brought their own unique influences and left indelible marks on the region. Each empire left its mark on Syria, like a historical game of architectural Pictionary. You can see the layers of history in the diverse architectural styles that dot the landscape. This blend of cultures is what makes Syria so fascinating. It's a place where you can experience a rich tapestry of human civilization. It's a melting pot of languages, religions, and traditions. Walking through a Syrian market, you can hear a symphony of different tongues and see a mosaic of cultural practices. And of course, delicious food. Syrian cuisine is a delightful blend of flavors and ingredients, reflecting its diverse cultural heritage. Don't even get me started on the hummus. It's a culinary masterpiece that has been perfected over centuries. Syria truly is a land of wonders. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire was chopped up like a Thanksgiving turkey. The once vast and powerful empire was divided among the victorious Allied powers, each taking a slice for themselves. Syria, unfortunately, became part of the French Mandate. This meant that the French had control over Syrian territory, politics, and resources. Imagine that, going from centuries of Ottoman rule to croissants and berets. The cultural shift was significant, and the Syrians had to adapt to a new way of life under French colonial rule. The French, bless their hearts, weren't exactly known for their gentle touch in colonial matters. Their administration was often heavy-handed, and they faced resistance from the local population. They promised Syria independence, then kind of forgot about it. The promise of self-governance was dangled like a carrot. But the French were in no hurry to let go of their control. It wasn't exactly a recipe for a happy relationship. The Syrians grew increasingly frustrated and disillusioned with the French presence, leading to widespread unrest and protests. Finally, in 1946, Syria gained its independence. The long-awaited freedom was celebrated with great joy and hope for a brighter future. But the road ahead was bumpy, to say the least. The newly independent nation faced numerous challenges as it tried to establish a stable government and economy. Coups d'état became as common as baklava, with military leaders frequently seizing power and overthrowing governments, and political instability was the name of the game. The constant power struggles made it difficult for Syria to achieve lasting peace and progress. Syria was trying to find its footing in a rapidly changing world. The nation was eager to modernize and develop, but the internal turmoil often held it back. They were like that friend who just got out of a bad relationship and couldn't decide what they wanted. The Syrians were navigating a complex landscape of political ideologies and alliances, except in this case, the stakes were a lot higher than just picking the wrong flavor of ice cream. The decisions made during this period would shape the future of Syria for decades to come. Section 4. The Rise of the Ba'ath Party, like a Middle Eastern Game of Thrones. Enter the Ba'ath Party, stage left. This pan-Arab nationalist party promised stability and unity. Sounds good, right? Well, hold your horses. In 1970, Hafez al-Assad, a charismatic but ruthless military man, seized power. Think of it as a Middle Eastern Game of Thrones, but with fewer dragons and more secret police. Assad's rule was a mixed bag. He brought stability, yes, but at the cost of political freedom. Dissent was not tolerated. Imagine trying to complain about your internet speed to a guy who controls the entire country's media. Underneath the surface, tensions were simmering. Different ethnic and religious groups, economic inequality, you name it. It was a powder keg waiting for a spark. Section 5. Civil War and Chaos. Syria's got talent, but not the fun kind. Remember that powder keg? Yeah, it exploded. In 2011, inspired by the Arab Spring, protests erupted across Syria. People demanded democracy, freedom, and an end to corruption. Assad's response? Well, let's just say he didn't offer them any tea and biscuits. The peaceful protests were met with brutal force, and Syria descended into a brutal civil war. It's a complicated mess. You've got the Syrian government, various rebel groups, ISIS throwing a spanner in the works, and international powers all meddling in the mix. It's like a really depressing potluck where everyone brought weapons instead of food. The humanitarian crisis is staggering. Millions displaced, countless lives lost, and a country in ruins. It's a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict. Section 6. Hope on the horizon? The current situation and a glimmer of light. So, where does Syria stand today? Well, the fighting has calmed down in some areas, but the situation remains fragile. It's like trying to build a house of cards on top of a washing machine on spin cycle. Millions are still displaced, and rebuilding the country will be a monumental task. Imagine having to rebuild your Lego masterpiece after your dog used it as a chew toy. But amidst the rubble, there are glimmers of hope. Syrians are resilient people. They've endured centuries of turmoil, and their spirit is unbroken. There are local organizations working tirelessly to rebuild their communities, piece by piece. The road ahead is long and uncertain, but the human spirit, much like Syrian history, is full of surprises. Section 7. Respect the Journey Syria, a story for the ages. So there you have it, folks. A crash course in Syrian history. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? From ancient empires to modern-day conflicts, Syria has seen it all. It's easy to get caught up in the headlines to see Syria as just another war-torn country. But remember, behind the statistics are real people with their own stories, their own hopes and dreams. Syria's story is a reminder that history is not just something we read in textbooks. It shapes who we are, where we come from, and where we might go. So the next time you hear about Syria on the news, take a moment to remember its long and complex journey. Respect the journey, folks. It's a story for the ages.